Hi, I'm Sarah, and the story I'm going to be talking about today is in Chapter 7, and it starts on page 140. It's called Plenty Coups Travels to Washington, and the story is told by Plenty Coups, the chief of the Crow Nation, which now is currently located in Montana. So a little bit about the story is Plenty Coups is traveling to Washington to discuss the railroad that the government is going to build that will cut across the Crow land. And he isn't very happy about this, so he wants to go discuss it with the president and see what their plans are. So he decides to take a couple other chiefs with him on the journey, so he's not alone. And during this journey, they're traveling through during springtime, so snow is still on the ground, so it gives them a bit of a challenge in their journey. And the further they travel into the mountains, the more snow they came upon, and the harder the journey was. So after 4 nights and 5 days of traveling, they are able to rest in Montana. And after that, they meet a tribe called the Bannocks, and they stay with them for a little bit, and that's where they discover the train, which they refer to as the fast wagon, and they describe it as a big black horse with his belly nearly touching the ground, and there's a bell on the back. And every time this big black horse ran so fast, he would puff smoke, and because he was tired. So they begin to take the train for the rest of their journey to Washington. And when they finally get to Washington, they meet with the president, and he tells them that he wants to send the Crow children to school, to boarding schools, obviously, and build houses and barns for each member in the Crow tribe, and he wants to build a railroad through the Yellowstone Valley. So Plenty Coups decides that he wants to think about this for a little bit, so the president gives him 2 days to consider this. And then after those 2 days, Plenty Coups agrees with everything that the president offered except for the building of the railroad. He doesn't want the railroad to ruin his land and mess up their crops and all of that. And so the president says that they could move the Crow tribe to a different area, but Plenty Coups isn't happy with that either, because he likes to live in an area where there's high mountains and lots of fresh spring water for his tribe, so he doesn't agree with moving. He wants to stay, of course. So Plenty Coups decides that once they're finally allowed to return home, that he'll think about the railroad being built and discuss it with his tribe, and then he'll allow the government officials to visit, and they'll have like a little conference and talk about what they've decided. So Plenty Coups does finally agree to allow the government to build the railroad through the Yellowstone Valley and through their land, upon the agreement that they will be given free transportation. So what ends up happening is that the government builds the homes for the Crow tribe, and they end up not keeping their promise of allowing them to have free transportation, and so Plenty Coups ends up moving to a new land, and he stayed there until he passed away. So Plenty Coups was the Crow chief for the Crow Nation, and a great quote that I found that he said was about, "Education is your greatest weapon. With education you are the white man's equal. Without education you are his victim, and so shall remain all of your lives. Study, learn, help one another always. Remember, there is only poverty and misery in idleness and dreams, but in work there is self-respect and independence." Pliny Coups was a well-respected warrior, and he was said to have 50 to 100 feathers, each representing an act of valor. And feathers in most Indian tribes is a sign of, how high and how hard you have worked in your life. And the Crow Nation considered him to be the last of the great chiefs before he died in 1932. And he had visions of white men taking over Indian lands and their way of living, which turned out to be true, of course. So the Crow Nation, they lived in the Yellowstone River Valley, which extends from Wyoming through Montana and into North Dakota. And today they are a federally recognized tribe called the Crow Tribe of Montana. And their tribe is called the Apsaluki, which means children of the large beaked bird, which also refers to a crow. This map shows where the Crow Nation is located now. So the official site of the Crow Nation can be found at the link there, and I can also put it onto Moodle so you guys can actually go look at it. And it's just a good website that shows what the tribe is doing now and talks about their history and different events that they have. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.